There are two methods for clarifying butter. The first is direct heat. The pan goes directly on a burner, and the burner is on medium heat. This has a likelihood of burning, so we have to be very careful to watch the butter during the process to make sure that it doesn't burn. We clarify butter to separate the milk solids and water from the butter fat. The reason we do that is to reduce the likelihood of burning and increase the smoke point of the butter. After about 5 minutes or so, it'll be time to skim the butter, and I've moved the pot slightly off center to convection simmer so that I can gather the foam off the top of the pot more easily. As milk proteins are coagulating and rising to the top and forming the scum, I'm skimming that off, and other solids and water are sinking to the bottom. So I'm going to continue to skim this throughout the simmering time to make sure that I get all of this foam lifted off the butter. All right, so at this point I'm going to skim a little bit more of the foam off the top while the butter is just about finishing. So I'm going to turn the burner off, and I'm going to pull the butter off the heat, and at this point you can see that the fat is quite clear and dark yellow. So I'm going to get a nice ladleful, and I'm going to start to strain the butter through the coffee filter. When you're straining the butter, you typically won't just pour the butter into the filter, because underneath this clarified fat is some sediment, and we don't want to pour that into the filter. It'll clog the filter and it can cloud the butter. And now that most of the butter fat is off the surface, you can see that what's left in the pot is this very milky, cloudy substance, and this is the remainder of the milk solids that have settled to the bottom of the pot. Once the butter is done clarifying, it's been strained into a bain-marie, you're going to take the clarified butter and cool it down some. Once it's cooled, it's now safe to wrap it, label it, and store it under refrigeration. An alternate method for clarifying butter is the indirect heat method. In this method, you'll put a pot with just a small amount of water on the stove, and then you'll add a bain-marie that has butter in it into the water. You'll bring the temperature of the water up to a gentle simmer and allow the butter to melt in this hot water bath. When the clarified butter is done, it should be relatively clear and free of particles.